Hey, this is Jürgen Rasmussen. Welcome to the Provocative Hypnosis vlog. I thought I would share with you some recent client case updates that I've had that I've found kind of interesting. So the first one is a sex therapist that I worked with for over 2 years ago who had performance anxiety around orgasms and very rarely had orgasms or were able to enjoy them much. So I just got an email not long ago from her that she now had uh, consistent, enjoyable orgasms during sex, and she credited the work that we did together as being a turning point in that. And what we did together is she was kind of disconnected from her felt sense. So a lot of the work was about getting her to really connect with her body and with her felt sense during sex and to really feel into it and surrender to it. That was one aspect of it, to really connect with felt sense and to really actually feel what was going on in the body instead of being stuck in the mind. And the other thing was quite a bit of loving kindness meditation for the purpose of being able to enjoy her partner or partner's pleasure during the act of sex. So there was something of a hostility or anger towards sexual partners. So that capacity to really be in touch with wanting them to enjoy it, and just as importantly, being able to derive pleasure from their pleasure. That really made a big difference. This is, by the way, a great thing to know in terms of happiness in general. If you look at happiness research, you'll see that the happiest people are often among the most generous. And one of the capacities that people who experience a lot of happiness often have is the ability to take joy in other people's joy. You see, if you can only take joy in your own accomplishments or things going your way, that's usually quite limited. But if you can literally derive joy out of other people feeling joyous, you have a virtually unlimited source of joy to draw from. So I really liked, I actually got the email from this client just before Christmas. I really liked that result. I don't see a lot of clients for sexual issues. I see the rare occasional client. I can perhaps go a year without seeing a client for sexual issues. I see the occasional client, and this is my 27th year. So I've seen quite a few clients. Just a couple of men, mostly women. And in the cases I've seen, more often than not, we've been able to increase sexual satisfaction, being in touch with the body, having better positive feelings, and I also trained one person to be multi-orgasmic. So that's kind of cool. The other feedback I got was from someone I saw for 2.5 years ago for a very particular skin issue. And this person had hypersensitive skin. And I have a testimonial. It's going to be up either today or tomorrow on my website, provocativehypnosis.com, from this particular person. So what you'll see there in the testimonial is that he's able to write "thank you" on his arm, and you just with his finger, and you can see the skin form with the letters. and then later on trying to do the same thing and no longer being able to do it. So his skin was hypersensitive and would kind of swell up, and he's now had 2.5 years before he wrote me this particular testimonial, and his skin is no longer reactive. So what we did with that, and I'd never worked with that in particular before. I don't even know if that condition has a particular name. But what we did is I had him really get in touch with the sensations of touching his skin and his skin being stimulated. And I would have him notice and describe the sensations, adding language to the sensations. And then we would look to see if there was any inherent threats in any of the sensations associated with the stimuli or the touching. And by practicing that, a little bit consistently, he was able to make it so that his skin was no longer reactive. And this is a result that has held up now for 2.5 years. So that's also a feedback I got around Christmas. So I thought that was really cool as well. I mention it because I like to share these kind of unusual case stories. And now that I've bragged and shared a couple of long-term successes, I'll share a recent failure case as well and my reflections around that. I saw a client who came in for generalized anxiety. And he was not that psychologically oriented. He was not good at being in touch with felt sense so much by using his imagination. So we started off with his physiology. And what I did, so the whole goal here was to help him to investigate the body sensations so that he could have the body sensations without making anxiety out of them. For example, a beating heart and sweaty palms, which is something that he would say that whenever I'm anxious, I have a beating heart and sweaty palms. Now the point being that I know for a fact that there's many instances of his life where he has a beating heart and sweaty palms and does not create anxiety out of it. So what I did with him was various exercises to kind of rev up those sorts of experiences. So I had him run on the spot really hard and then describe the sensations. I had him do restricted breathing so that he would get that feeling of not quite being able to breathe and to be able to relax into that. I had him spin in circles to be able to be present with the sensations of rotating. And I also had him hyperventilate on purpose so that he could be present with all that activity arising and passing. Now, this is something I've done with a lot of clients, and it's usually successful. But what happened is that after this session, the client was so activated and he made a lot of anxiety out of it. And his mind got really busy and he was just looping with this. And, a big part of my work is in the framing and doing my best to help people dispel this myth of mental illness and this idea that their thoughts and feelings represent some sort of illness, I was not able to persuade this guy about that well. And even though I had a call with him on the phone, he was supposed to come back into my office. He actually ended up canceling, and his medical doctor advised him not to come back. And his medical doctor, of course, had indoctrinated him into the whole mental illness mindset again and put him on drugs. So there's a couple of interesting things to pick up there. One is that you really when you see clients, better make sure that they're not simultaneously seeing someone else that they view as an expert who has a very competing framework. So working with someone like this while they simultaneously are in close contact with a medical doctor who has a very, biologically psychiatric type orientation, not a good idea, you know. And in my case, if you're going to do the type of exposure work where you really activate the physiology and stuff like that, you better have solid rapport and good client commitment. I thought we had that commitment, but I was obviously wrong. And just last week, I had a client call me to book some sessions, and during the conversation, I discovered that she was also seeing us a psychologist who was very psychodynamically oriented, and that when she had mentioned to the psychologist the possibility of seeing me simultaneously, the psychologist had gotten very hostile. And she's been seeing this psychologist for a couple of years and not really made any progress. So I had enough sense to say no. I said, look, if you ever no longer see this psychologist, and as I said to her, I'm not telling you to no longer see her, that's your choice. But if you ever reach the point where you no longer see her, then you can call me, and then we can explore working together. Because if you work with a client under those terms, you have another person that your client views as an expert who's presenting a framework that's very contradictory to the one that I'm doing. And if the client starts getting successful, the psychologist or the medical doctor will very often do what they can to sabotage it. And if things don't go well, they're going to blame you, and your ass is on the line, and they have bigger boots than you. So that's something to consider from a legal perspective. I'm also sharing this because if you see enough clients, sometimes after a session, a client will get worse, meaning their affect or their emotions have been amplified, or they're more hypervigilant, or they have more thinking going on, right? That can, on occasion, happen. And it's very important that you kind of frame things with a client in such a way that if those things happen, you still have credibility and you have a relationship that's not built upon this mythical, magical hypnotist that just said, oh, it's easy. We'll solve it in one session. It'll all be fun and games. Because it's not always so. So these are some cases I wanted to share with you. I also want to share with you, if you're watching this in January 2024, I'm doing a seminar called about playing with hypnotic phenomena in change work. It's an online seminar. It's on January the 20th. I'm also doing a psychological illusion model training February 17th and 18th. They're both going to be great seminars. They're both online. So if you're interested, please go to provocativhypnosis.com. Check out the seminar page. You'll see links with information. And I really hope to see you on both events, if not just one. All right. And as always, know that I see clients from all over the world. That means, in practicality, all over the Western world, online. So if you're curious about exploring either mentoring or making some change in your life with me, you can reach me at provocativhypnosis.com. All right. Thanks for listening.